All right, everyone, get ready for a deep dive. We're jumping into the world of rebirth coaching, and let me tell you, it's not your typical self-help trend.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, we're talking about blending emotional intelligence with spiritual guidance to, totally rebirth yourself.
Mm-hmm.
A complete life overhaul.
Hmm.
That's what they're promising, at least.
A complete overhaul, huh? Sounds intense.
Right. So you've had a chance to look over the materials, the guide, the tarot deck, even that wild brand development presentation. What's your take? Legit self-improvement or just clever marketing?
Well, let's just say they're not shying away from bold claims.
Okay, I'm picking up on some skepticism already.
Maybe a little. But there are some genuinely fascinating aspects to this, like their 12-step program.
Yeah, a 12-step program for life transformation.
Yeah.
Definitely caught my attention.
It's not just your surface-level self-help stuff either. It gets pretty deep. Take step 7, inner child work. They're talking about intense emotional release exercises, shadow work. It's like depth psychology applied to, well, rebirth.
So less about manifesting your dream life, more about confronting your childhood demons.
Exactly. And it's not just confined to that one step. This whole inner child concept seems to be woven throughout the entire program. Like they're saying, if you want lasting change, you got to address those past traumas and limiting beliefs.
Interesting. And it makes sense though, right? I mean, we know how much our childhood experiences can impact us as adults.
Absolutely. Attachment theory, anyone. And while this rebirth coaching system doesn't explicitly reference any psychological theories, you can definitely see the parallels. They're tapping into that understanding that our early experiences shape how we perceive the world, how we behave, even how we relate to others.
So how does this inner child work tie into their whole rebirthing yourself concept?
Yeah.
Are they suggesting we can just erase our past and start fresh?
That's the million-dollar question. And to be honest, that's where things get a bit murky. They talk about releasing old patterns and embracing your true self, but the how-to of it all, a little vague.
So a healthy dose of skepticism is probably warranted.
Probably. But let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Right.
Let's say this inner child work does have the potential to create profound shifts. How would that then translate into the rest of their program?
Good point. What are the next steps?
Well, they've got steps dedicated to identifying your blockages, setting boundaries, building a support system, even rewarding yourself for progress. It's like they're anticipating the bumps in the road, providing a roadmap for navigating the emotional ups and downs of transformation.
I'm sensing a but coming.
You know me too well. It's just... While the steps themselves seem logical, I'm not entirely convinced that a 12-step program, no matter how well-intentioned, can fully address the complexities of human experience. Everyone's journey is so unique, so layered, it makes you wonder if they're oversimplifying things a bit.
You're saying it feels a little formulaic.
A bit. Like, can we really package something as profound as rebirth into a neat 12-step program? That makes you wonder.
Okay, so some valid concerns about the structure, the potential for oversimplification, but still curious about those later steps. They talk about this new plan you create, and even this whole idea of finding a partner who complements your energy. Like they're taking this personal transformation and expanding it outward.
That's the part that really piqued my interest. It's like they're saying this rebirth isn't just about you, it's about finding your place in the grand scheme of things, creating harmonious relationships that align with your true self.
Okay, now we're talking. Tell me more about this universe's love language and how it fits into their system.
Okay, so picture this universe's love language like a cosmic matchmaking system.
A cosmic matchmaking system.
Yeah, it's based on this idea that we all have a unique energetic signature, right? And that signature is what attracts us to certain people.
Okay, I'm trying to keep an open mind here, but isn't this venturing into, our soulmates are written in the stars territory?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
They call it a matrix grid, and honestly, it's a lot to unpack. But the basic idea is that it categorizes different spirit energies, and not just masculine and feminine, but a whole spectrum: hard dominant, soft submissive, even epicene neutral.
Epicene neutral. Now that one I got to hear more
Yeah,
about.
not your typical binary system. And it's actually pretty nuanced. They describe the epicene energy as embodying both assertive and humble qualities. Like they can seamlessly shift between leading and supporting, depending on the situation.
Interesting. So we're moving beyond those limiting masculine-feminine boxes, which I like. But are they saying everyone fits neatly into one of these categories? What about how we change and evolve over time?
That's a great point. And to be honest, it's not something they really address in the materials you gave me. They seem very focused on this idea that you identify your primary energy type and then you find a partner with a complementary energy, like matching puzzle pieces.
So if you identify as hard dominant, you need to find a soft submissive partner to complete the cosmic puzzle.
Basically, yes. And while I can appreciate the emphasis on finding balance in a relationship, this whole rigid categorization thing feels a bit limiting. Life isn't static.
Right, it's all a little too neat and tidy, like a cosmic paint by numbers for relationships. But let's say, just for fun, that this whole energy matching system works. How do you even figure out someone's spirit energy? Are we talking aura readings and astrological charts now?
Actually, no. Their approach is more about introspection, self-awareness. They have all these questions and exercises to help you figure out your dominant traits and tendencies. It's almost like a personality test, but framed through this energetic lens.
Okay, so less fortune telling, more self reflection. I can get on board with that. But I'm still stuck on this whole find a partner based solely on energetic compatibility thing. What about shared values, intellectual connection, a good sense of humor? All the things that actually make relationships work in the real world.
Totally. And that's where I think this system, at least from what I've seen, kind of misses the mark. It's like they're so focused on this cosmic matchmaking that they forget about the very real, very human side of building a lasting partnership.
Like they skipped a few chapters in the relationship guidebook.
Exactly. But what I find most interesting about all of this isn't really the system itself. It's what it reveals about our desire for connection.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Go on.
We're drawn to these frameworks, these systems that promise to guide us to our perfect match, our soulmate. But what if, and just hear me out, what if the real journey isn't about finding someone who completes us, but someone who encourages us to become more fully ourselves?
You're hitting on something really profound here.
And maybe, just maybe, that's the real essence of rebirth. Not some erasure of our past or this cosmically ordained partnership, but an ongoing process of self-discovery. Peeling back the layers, to uncover that most authentic version of ourselves and then having the courage to share that with the world.
Wow. So are we saying this whole rebirth coaching system is just a fancy marketing ploy for good old-fashioned self-exploration?
Maybe, maybe not, but it definitely gets you thinking, right? And isn't that what any good system, any worthwhile philosophy should do? Make us question, make us think, open us up to new possibilities.
I do love poking holes in their cosmic matchmaking system, but I have to admit, I'm kind of liking this idea of rebirth as an ongoing journey of self-discovery. But what about this matrix grid thing? Is there anything redeemable about this whole energy tightening system, or are we ready to throw in the towel? It's funny you should ask about tossing it out,
Oh,
because I was just thinking about how we often gravitate towards labels and categories as a way to understand ourselves and the world around us. Even if a system isn't perfect, it can still spark some insightful self-reflection, right?
absolutely. Take the Myers-Briggs type indicator, for example. It's been criticized for its lack of scientific validity, but millions of people still find value in understanding their personality type. It's a starting point for conversation, a framework for understanding our strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. And I'm wondering if this matrix grid, for all its cosmic quirks, might offer a similar kind of value. Even if we don't buy into the whole finding your perfect energetic match thing, maybe it can still help us recognize certain patterns in our relationships.
I think you're onto something there. Imagine using it as a tool for understanding the dynamics within your existing relationships rather than a blueprint for finding a new partner.
So instead of, you're a hard, dominant energy, so go find yourself a soft, submissive soulmate, it's more like, I tend to gravitate towards more assertive roles in my relationships. I wonder what that says about my needs and how I show up for others.
Precisely. It becomes less about finding a perfect match and more about fostering self-awareness and promoting more conscious communication within our relationships.
Now that's a concept I can get behind. It takes the pressure off this whole cosmic matchmaking thing and brings it back to a place of personal responsibility and growth.
And when we approach it from that perspective, this whole system becomes a lot less about finding the right person and a lot more about being the right person.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Because ultimately, isn't that what this whole rebirth thing is really about? It's not about finding some external source of completion. It's about doing the inner work, the messy, uncomfortable, and often exhilarating work of becoming the best version of ourselves.
Exactly. And when we do that, when we commit to our own personal growth and evolution, we naturally attract people who are on a similar wavelength.
So the real love language isn't about finding someone who perfectly complements our energy. It's about becoming fluent in the language of self-love, self-acceptance, and continual growth.
Beautifully said. And when we speak that language, when we embody that energy, we create a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves, touching the lives of those around us and inspiring them to embark on their own journeys of transformation.
Wow, this conversation has taken quite a turn. We went from skeptical side-eyeing to full-on cosmic epiphanies in record time.
That's the beauty of a good deep dive, isn't it? It takes you to unexpected places.
It certainly does. And I have a feeling this is one of those conversations that will stay with me long after we hit the stop button. It's got me thinking about my own patterns, my own rebirth journey, and the kind of energy I'm putting out into the world.
And isn't that the most valuable takeaway of all? The questions that linger, the insights that continue to unfold long after the conversation has ended.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening, as you continue your own journey of transformation, consider this. What would it look like to embrace the concept of rebirth, not as a destination, but as a continuous process of becoming? And how can you use this awareness, this understanding of your own energy and your potential to create more meaningful connections and a more fulfilling life? This deep dive is just the beginning. Keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, you're never truly finished with your own rebirth. Until next time.